In this episode of Houndsman XP, we're going to do something that's very near and dear to my heart. We're going to air the second of my archival interviews with old-time hunters. And this one was actually the first interview that I had done. This was the first time I'd ever interviewed anyone. I was a little inexperienced, and it shows. We're in a barn that was kind of a little loud at times, so I apologize for that. But otherwise, I was very excited. And the person I'm interviewing is really special to me. He's Mr. Dean Bohannon. He's how I got into coursing, and he's just a great guy. He's a Texas Special Ranger. He's been on all kinds of really interesting cases. He's had amazing coursing dogs for many, many years. He's just a warm, generous, caring person. You know, I got my dogs from him. I reached out to him, and he took the time to get to know me, and I just really liked the way he took care of his dogs and how he was really thoughtful and thorough about who he sells dogs to. You know, he didn't want them to just go to anybody, so he took the time to get to know me over the phone. And then I met him in Lubbock, saw his dogs. You know, he's really adamant about great care for his pack, and what has really stuck with me over the years is he's been willing to help me. He's always there if I need any advice, and he's just so nice and very thoughtful. He's just been great, and I can't speak highly enough of him. It was just it was a no-brainer when I wanted to start interviewing these people that I start with Dean. I just think that, you know, I mean, he still texts me out of the blue to just see how I'm doing. I send him pictures all the time of the dogs, and as they were growing, you know, I was very excited. And you know, sometimes he just calls me out of the blue and he's like, "You wouldn't believe this race I just had." And we just sit down and geek out over incredible rabbit races for a long time. We're both pretty verbose people, so we can talk a long time. And so it's just really heartwarming to air Dean's voice and just like let him tell his story. And again, being verbose, the story we told here is probably only a fraction. We could keep going for a long time, and we will. I'd like to get back to Lubbock and interview him again and talk to him and just sit down and hunt with him and be around him. He's just such a good guy. So enjoy, you guys. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We talk about, you know, his thoughts on raising hounds and great races and just so many things. You know, he talks about great people he's known, and he's going to throw down a lot of names because he's very he has a huge social network. And so you know, you're going to meet a lot of people through his voice, and you're going to meet a lot of people through time because he's known a lot of people from long ago. So guys, thank you so much for listening. This episode was really near and dear to my heart, and you can definitely hear how excited I was. I was a little nervous too, which was kind of silly. I'm not sure why. I just was. And I've talked to Dean for so long. I was really excited. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. As always, we appreciate your ears and we appreciate your support. Enjoy. Today's date is December 5th, 2019. I am in Lubbock, Texas with Mr. Dean Bohannon. Dean, thank you for granting me this interview, buddy. Yeah. When I started this interview series, the first person I wanted to interview was you, because I wouldn't be sitting here without you. So, yeah, I mean, we've been chatting already before we started talking here for quite a while, and I was hunting pigs in Wichita Falls, and on the way back, I thought it'd be a perfect time to stop and talk to you. So without further ado, I figured the best way to start this would be to ask you, Dean, how old are you, where were you born, and when's the first time you started running dogs?
Well, I'll be 70 my birthday, and I guess I was born and raised over at Iowa Park. It's right west of Wichita Falls where you were hunting last night, not too far from where you were hunting. And I started running rabbits, I guess, when, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old. And my brother that called a while ago, while you were with me, Aubrey Bohannon at Wichita Falls, and my brother-in-law at Wichita Falls, Gary Chandler, they got me started in the rabbit business. They ran rabbits. We used to go on Sundays over to Davidson and Frederick. They might be 15 truckloads of us, 20 truckloads. A lot of rabbits, Davidson, Frederick, you know, all over across, just right across the river, Red River over in Oklahoma. And you never seen so many pickups and rabbit dogs in your life. And so anyway, my brother and Orby and Gary, my brother-in-law, they ran rabbits, and there was a feller by the name of Bear Waters that had a ranch over at Wichita Falls, between Wichita Falls and Iowa Park, and back north toward Burkmanette. He had the most beautiful stag dog that you've ever seen, a young dog, come up to his place. And he was red, shaggy, didn't have a collar on him. And back home, everybody called me Jackie. And he called and asked me if I'd want that dog. I said, well, we want to try to find the owner, you know. And we looked everywhere, and I run that dog for a couple of years, and my brother-in-law had a little shaggy jip called Nail, little stag jip. We ran those two together. And my brother, I went with him when I was just a kid. He had a Datsun pickup, brand new Datsun pickup. When those Datsun pickups first came out, he had a Datsun pickup, and a guy from Big Springs, Texas, who was known to be kind of the king of rabbit dog business, named Buddy Wynn. He's dead now, but he had a dog called Joe and Blondie, their litter mates. And he's going to get out of the business, and my brother and I drove to Big Springs, Texas. I'll never forget it. It was sleeting and snowing, and it was a bad day to travel, but we went and got her. And we got back, and the first time we went hunting with those, and all those guys and all those pickups, when my brother unloaded those two dogs, that dog and that female, all the hunters said, where did you get Joe and Blondie? And he said, well, Buddy Wynn sold them to him. We didn't know Buddy Wynn was going to get out of the business. How'd you get a hold of them dogs? And they could run up on a rabbit, and they could live forever. They just didn't miss rabbits.
They were straight stags?
Pardon?
They were straight stag hounds?
No, those two dogs were just greyhound,
okay.
greyhound. Okay. My brother-in-law and I, we had shag dogs. And so anyway, my brother-in-law, of course, Orby, he didn't hardly ever miss a rabbit. And my brother-in-law and I, we didn't miss many rabbits. You know, we'd miss one or two. We had pretty decent dogs, but we didn't know, you know, every time it was a guess whether they was going to catch them or not.
Yeah, that's
but
how it started.
They were nice dogs. Well, there was a guy named Arthur Harvey from Blair, Oklahoma, that my brother, when he lived in Altus, coyote hunted with him all the time. And Arthur was no coyote hunter. He didn't run with a box or anything. He just run an open pickup. Them dogs, they would not get out of that pickup until he hissed them. He just run around an old 6-cylinder Ford 3-speed. He run those dogs out of the open pickup. He'd just ride around all up in that northern part. And a lot of alfalfa patches up there. And he liked to breed, and this is where I kind of got to where I like to breed stags and hot blood dogs. So he saw mine and Gary's our stag dog, his stag jip, my stag dog, and he wanted to swap for them. And he said, I've got some rabbit jips up there that will kill every rabbit that comes up. He said, y'all come up here. He said, y'all bring your stags, and y'all come up here, and y'all run your stags, and I'll run these little jips. And I'll get rid of my jips. I don't keep them for coyote dogs. And we went up there. We were walking across this alfalfa patch, and the next section of alfalfa patches everywhere. And Gary looked at me, and he said, Jackie, he said, if a rabbit comes up in this field, there is no rabbit alive that can get away from these dogs. And I said, you're right. And we were walking along there, and he said, stop. And we stopped, and there's a rabbit in the bed. He saw it.
It's hard to do.
And we had to walk up there near to kick that rabbit out of the bed. And we may have turned it 2 or 3 or 4 times, and then that rabbit just went to skipping with his ears up. And I mean, really embarrassed us. Yeah. Arthur Harvey said, you take these 2 jips. There was a blonde one, and there was a red one. And we named them Tootsie and Queenie. And we went out there, and we killed 3 rabbits in a row with those jips, and didn't have any long races. So anyway, we made the swap, and then there was a black jip there that was a sister to him, and my brother Orby gave $50 for her. And I'm telling you, they were rabbit dogs. And that's my first experience with real rabbit dogs. The stag dogs we had, you know, in our part of the country was a different rabbit than it was over north of Blair, Oklahoma. It was a whole totally different deal. And so anyway, I've just been running and breeding these old dogs ever since.
What exactly to you is a stag hound? Because I hear so many different variations.
I tell you, I just call a stag hound a hairy dog.
Exactly. So I've heard that they're coyote bred greyhounds. I've heard that they're their own unique breed. They have all kinds of stuff in them.
They're just a hairy dog as far as
big hairy dog.
Yeah.
So if you were to run any species, well, I know you've run coyotes and rabbits, but what do you prefer? What's your favorite to run, and why?
Oh, I like a little hair on the dog. I really do, but I don't care. I don't care what color a dog is, or if he's got hair or not. If he's a good dog, I like him.
What about for species to run? What do you like to run against? Rabbits or coyotes or what else?
You know, I ran coyotes. I showed you that picture. I ran coyotes for lots of years. And I've had some coyote dogs that could just go to a coyote and make a coyote look like he's running backwards. And those same dogs could make a jackrabbit lay his ears down. They couldn't catch a jackrabbit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so,
well, I guess, yeah.
Anyway.
Big different speed there.
But I got to breeding dogs, and I got to play it, and I'd go watch dogs. You know, I'd watch other guys' dogs and really studying these dogs. And I bought some dogs, some real coyote dogs off of Roger Coleman that could really go and fly, really go to a coyote, and good dogs, good at dogs that a man want to run. And then there was a guy named Al Samples. I'm sure Al's dead now, but he used to, at one time he was the king of the rabbit dogs. You know, everybody's got good rabbit dogs now, but there's a time that just a few had them.
I've heard that a lot, actually. That, like,
and Al Samples worked for a guy named Creek down in Odessa, Texas. And I can't remember Creek's first name, but he was in the running dog business. And Al Samples took and bred a dog that Creek, one of his stud dogs, I want to say is either Texas Talking or Texas Walking, one of the two. I think it is Texas Talking, to a coyote bred jip. And he got some of the runningest son bucks I ever seen. And when he had a jip named Queenie and a dog named Tex, and they were litter mates, and when they got 3 years old, he wanted to sell them. He called me. I told him, I said, if you ever want to sell those dogs, I won't push out of them. He called me, and I met him. I left here one evening after I got off work. I worked for Sheriff's Office, got off 5 o'clock, and I met him at Weatherford, Texas. Got those dogs and drove back home, and they could kill a jackrabbit. And I started using them to breeding dogs up.
For rabbits?
Yeah, for rabbit dogs. And I ran a lot of coyotes. That old Tex dog would go catch a runaway coyote. I mean, he just step out there and catch a coyote quick. But I don't know. And then I just watch, and I see someone that's got a really outstanding dog. I try to buy them.
Yeah.
I'd had a little plan, and several years ago, there's a black guy here named Delbert Hood, and he was a king of running dogs at one time. He had some great dogs in his life, but he bought a dog. No, let me back up. A guy named Benny Roy from down at College Station had a pair of stag hounds, puppies, and he brought one to Delbert Hood, give one to Delbert. Well, I think he gave 2 to Delbert Hood, and then a guy from down at Electra, Texas, can't think of his name right now, got the other one, but the one Delbert had, he didn't really want him. You know, he's a big old footed thing, had big old feet. Now, as a matter of fact, Delbert named him Bigfoot.
The legend.
The legend. So, anyway, I'd have been hearing about Bigfoot. So, one day I had an opportunity to go hunting with him, and I went, and Delbert, this Bigfoot dog, when he had put him on the lead, and he had a couple other dogs. And those dogs hit a rabbit 2 or 3 or 4 times, and you know, their deal was over, and that old Bigfoot dog would take the race over. And I'm telling you, it didn't make any difference how far he went, he killed him. And then Delbert and Doc Blevins, they'd go try to catch that dog. They couldn't catch him. He'd be running around the field with a rabbit in his mouth. And I watched them. And they was out there trying to catch him. He jumped another rabbit, dropped that rabbit, took off. He killed 3 rabbits that away by himself before they got him caught. Well, Raymond Rodriguez, a friend of mine that he and I hunt together all the time, Raymond said, Delbert, said, I know where there's some rabbits that you can't catch. And I knew where he was talking about. It was no hard pasture. And Delbert, the way he talks slow, he said, well, Raymond, I sure would like to go try him. And I thought he'd rest his dog 2 or 3 days. They went right then. I went over, and Delbert had a bad hip or bad leg or something that day. And I told him, I said, I'll walk your dogs for you, Delbert. And we went over there to this pasture. It was a section pasture. It was hard old ground. They'd run cattle on it. And you know, over there in our farming country, every mile there's a road. Every 6 miles there's a road. Yeah. And I took those dogs, got them on lead, walked across the bar ditch and come out on the pasture. Didn't have a fence around it. It was just an old pasture. And there he come up right then, that quick. I turned out on him, and them other dogs he had, they worked him for a little while and worked him for a little while and worked him for a little while, and that old thing got long, and that old Bigfoot dog, he went to the rabbit and he stuck his nose in his hind end. Never let up. That rabbit went plumb across that section with that old dog just working. Went out on a hard, cleachy road, beating that rabbit out of that cleachy road several times. The rabbit come back in the field and come plumb across that section, back across it, and probably killed him in 100 yards before I jumped the rabbit. I said, man, I got to have that dog. I got a plan for him. And so I said, Delbert, I'll give you $1,500 for that dog now. He said, no, I won't take it. I won't take it. So I ain't gonna sell him. So I don't know, when the dog got, I think, 5 years old Delbert called me. And I had a Jip over here bred. I went to him and I said, can I breed? I got a George Harlan loaned me one of his proven hot blood Jips. She had pups on the track. She was proven. And she ran out a lot of money on the track. He said, Dean, I'll let you breed her, but when she weans those puppies, I'm gonna pass her this time when she comes in. If you want to come get her and breed her, he and I were pretty close. But when you're through, when she weans them pups, I want her right back here in my pens. I said, you got a deal. So the day
That's a good deal.
So anyway, I went over to Delbert's and I bred to him, and I told Delbert that I would give him, I think it was $750 in 3 of those pups, and I'd keep them till they was 8 weeks old. He said, let's do it. Or 12 weeks old. Let me back up, 12 weeks old. He said, I'll do that. So I gave him $750. Those puppies, they had all their shots in them and everything, and at 12 weeks old I took them, and they were rabbit dogs, and the ones I kept, named Shiloh and Shalimar and that bunch of dogs. I'm telling you what, I raised some of the best rabbit dogs I ever run out of those dogs. And I still got that bloodline.
And which is in my dog as well.
Which is in your dog as well. And actually, this red Jip I just showed you out here, that's a half sister to your dog, she's a double bred Bigfoot dog, and she goes back, let me back up too. And when my wife and I got married 25 years ago, Doc Blevis had been over here to Hobbs, New Mexico. And he brought some puppies back to a guy named Joe Cleveland over there, who was known all over. He's dead now. I don't know if he bought them off of them or they had a deal or what, but my brothers picked a male and a female out of there and brought them to my wife and I for a wedding present. We just got married. And so my wife, that show, Pretty Woman, come out when she named them after, she called one of them, the male dog, Joe Edward.
Yes, Joe Edward.
And named the female Vivian. That was the old, she was the old, what's her name?
I'm not as up to date as my Pretty Woman references, yeah.
But anyway, she named that. They said they had all their shots. You don't need their shots or anything. And I had them out here, the little old puppies, had them out here in the barn and a pen out there behind it. And I went out there one morning and that female was just kind of sitting down on the ground. Her eyes were glaring. I said, oh my gosh, she's got parvo. I took her to the vet and everything. We tried to save her. She died. Well, this Joe dog, he was supposed to be out of a really good outstanding hot blood Jip and a Saluki dog over in New Mexico named Fire.
Yeah, which of course I know, and I know the woman who bred Fire.
Well, that's the way this dog was bred.
He's a good dog.
Anyway, when this dog was 9 months old, I had 2 rabbit Jips that could murder a rabbit, but their lick was about a mile. If they didn't have him killed in a mile, well.
A lot of hot blood.
Anyway, I had this dog, and when he was 9 months old, they'd killed a lot of rabbits. He had seen a lot of rabbits. They'd killed a lot of rabbits in front of him. But 9 months old, Delbert Hood, my brother, I don't remember who all, we was up there north of the Littlefield on Outlaw Road. And we jumped a rabbit, and those little old gyps, and they was hitting him, and that old Joe dog was just trying his best to pick him up. And man, they ran that dog, and there was some, man, they finally made it over to a ranch, and they made it through, went through 2 barbed wire fences, and they all went through. And in a little bit, those gyps started playing out, and that little old Joe dog, he just went to them and just went to working that rabbit, way off over. I saw him catch that rabbit. And I said, that dog, that puppy just killed that rabbit. And Delbert said, no, Dean, he didn't kill that rabbit. My brother said, no, I don't think that dog killed that rabbit. I said, I'll be back in a little bit. Here in a little bit, I'll come back with Joe Edwards and that rabbit in my hand. And I ran him and a gyp I got from Doc Blevins named Nova. Oh, I ran them for 2 or 3 years. And the only way a rabbit lived under them was go in a hole or climb a tree. If they didn't do that, they were dead rabbits.
So how long does a good rabbit dog run for? What do you think?
I think it has a whole lot to do with how hot they are.
Yeah. That's what I've heard from a lot of people I
you breed them really, really hot. I compare a really running dog to the difference between a dragster and a Indy car.
And for all the people that don't know, Hot Blood is a racetrack bred greyhound.
Dog.
Yep.
Yeah. But I've had some half hots and half Bigfoot that are 5 years old. That gyp right out here, this red gyp out here, she'll be 6 in January. The half sister years. Mike McLaughlin was with me yesterday, and Dan Conkle, Raymond Rodriguez. I run 4 rabbits, killed all 4 of them, and that gyp right there she'll just lay out there. It doesn't make any difference. She's a real deal, and she's running just.
You know, the thing about coursing that I've found is that, at least with a lot of other hound sports and houndsmen I've talked to, is the big downside to coursing is it's like really high octane, and the injury rate can be a little higher than other hound sports because they're running at such a powerful rate. And I think luck really has a lot to do with how long they can last too.
Well,
honestly.
I tell you, a whole lot of it is the care.
Oh, definitely.
The care. And
definitely.
I'm not going to go and turn out on a place that there's rocks all over that big around. And I know guys, if they think there's a jackrabbit in there, they're going to go jump that jackrabbit. It doesn't make any difference if downtown Houston there's a jackrabbit in that dadgum little old rock there, they're going to run him. And I'm not going to, I think too much of my dogs. I spend too much money and got a lot of carrying them so I'm kind of careful about where I run.
My brother jokes that he'll keep his kids out of spending too much money when they're older because he'll get them into hounds, and then they won't have any money to do anything.
Yeah.
And a big mistake I made when I started is that I didn't recognize how much space you need, and I also didn't recognize the speed and power of those dogs. I'd never even seen a greyhound run before.
Well, when you came over here, y'all was running, and you bought those 2 pups off of me. Y'all were running some bird dogs and some beagles. I don't know what else.
No. I got started coursing, at night.
Y'all didn't have any greyhounds.
No, I was running just 1 half bird dog, half pit bull at night with a spotlight. And she'd catch them. Oh, yeah. She'd catch them for sure.
You kept telling me what a rabbit dog. I said,
oh, God.
Remember I told you, I said, when those dogs grow up, you're going to need to buy you a set of binoculars and tie around them.
I totally stole that from you.
So they can see where these dogs have gone,
You know, it's funny, when I love talking about coursing. To say I'm addicted to it's an understatement, but nobody in my part of the world, southern New Mexico, has even seen a greyhound. So they don't understand, and I didn't either. And my dog, that greyhound, was outrunning that bird dog at 6 months old. And I was just like,
I told you that, you wouldn't believe it.
We were using her to find rabbits for us because they're so hard to find out there in the desert prairie. And by the end of a 3-minute race, she'd be more than 1,000 yards behind us. Yeah. It takes her like a minute to catch up to us. We're just dying.
I used to sell a lot of dogs, lots of places. I've sold them to Roger Coleman up in Kansas, and sold them to a lot of guys over in Oklahoma, and New Mexico. I've sold a lot of coyote dogs. I don't mind selling to a coyote hunters, because you know, if I know they take care of their dogs.
That's right.
But I'm going to tell you,
That's right.
I've got guys that calls me right now want to buy dogs, but I'm real careful. I would sell you dogs again because you're a fanatic about taking care of a dog.
It's an investment.
You know, here's the thing about it. You can have the best dogs in the world, and you take half of the pups out of a litter, and I take half the pups out of a litter, and whoever takes care of them best is going to have the best performing dog.
Totally agree.
So what I've done, you know, what I've seen in the past, no boy out here have the best dogs in the world, and he'll sell them to some old boy over here that halfway takes care of them, and they can't kill a rabbit, and they'll say, well, that's no Hall dog, or that's no Bohannon dog.
That makes you look bad.
It makes you look bad, so I just quit selling dogs.
That's a really good way. You know, it's funny, a lot of people get blinded by the greed of selling puppies, or, I think, in my opinion, they just don't care. And I agree with you. I think your reputation is on the line. And I'm not going to lie, when I got those pups, another thing I was really happy, not only just because I'm obsessed with it, but like also I wanted to show you that they're really rocking. You know what I mean? They're catching rabbits like crazy. And I'm so excited. The first rabbit those two caught as a pair, I called you seconds after they caught that rabbit, and I was literally jumping out there in that field, jumping for joy.
I thought I was going to have to send one of them air ambulances over to give you some oxygen.
That rabbit came up in front of them. I mean, it was hiding under a tar bush, and I was walking. We had walked about 3 miles, and that rabbit come up right in front of that jip, and she can accelerate so fast. She just blew up on that rabbit's tail, and they caught that rabbit in 45 seconds, and I about had a heart attack. I collapsed. I mean, I was just, it was awesome. So,
but you know, I've raised some running dogs that are kin to your dogs. Well, they'd be uncles, a lot of uncles and aunts to your dogs. And I've had guys from different parts of the country say, well, those dogs can't catch a rabbit in our part of the country. I've never run over New Mexico, never have.
So different. That's the thing, it's
and
so different.
So anyway, Mike McLaughlin went over and tied a couple of times, or maybe won some of them contests they have over, you know.
Yep.
And he went up there one day, and I won't mention the guy's name. A guy told him, said, we're going to go up there and run somewhere over in New Mexico. Said, you don't catch no rabbits over there. And they ran 3 apiece. Mike caught all 3 of his, and that guy caught 2 of his. And so, and it's just like these dogs I've got out here now that you just looked at. You can have the fastest dog in the world. You can have the longest running dog in the world. But if you don't breed mouths on those dogs,
totally agree.
And if they don't put that, I don't care how fast they can run, how far they can run, if you don't put that rabbit on that pickup, you don't have rabbit dogs.
Totally agree.
And I think the speed and the endurance, I think finding dogs that got good mouths on them is just as important.
I've seen hot bloods, like primarily like heavy track dog builds that can just scream up on a rabbit, and at the last second they'll kind of just they don't have that heart to just like go.
Well, I've seen a lot of dogs can just run up on a rabbit and just run past it, you know. I like a dog that run on. I want that dog when he gets that rabbit start setting up. I don't want him running over him. I want him to start setting up, watching him.
Yeah, I agree. I love when I got pictures of it too. When that pack puts that rabbit in jail by putting a V behind it.
Nothing prettier.
What's your favorite size pack to run? How many dogs do you like to put on the ground?
Actually, I don't like to run but 2 dogs. My favorite thing is to run 2 dogs.
Why is that?
And I've got dogs. I just like to run 2 dogs.
Got it. There's no strategy, because I like to get analytical about it. I like to.
That's my thing. That don't make me right.
No, of course.
Wrong,
yeah.
You know, but I like to run 2. But I've never had as many dogs I've got right now. I've had dogs as good as dogs that I've got right now, but I've never had as many good dogs on my plate.
How many do you like to keep at a time usually?
I've got 9 running dogs, and I run them 3, 3, and 3.
I love 3. I think a pack of 3 is perfect.
You know, in a pack of 3, really, if you have an old dog get stowed out of the race, you know, you've got 2 that still.
Yeah. I like it because we run in a lot of tall grass, and so when they'll turn that rabbit, commonly they'll,
sometimes they'll lose a rabbit.
Yeah, and that trailer will see it, and then they just alternate in pairs, and then they have a trailing dog. That's a real nice thing about Salukis, is they are really good at keeping that rabbit right in front of them.
But you know, I just, I had a guy ask me one time about rabbit dogs, and I said, about what I think's the best. I said, you know, I can't tell you what's the best.
Yeah.
If you're running 3 hot bloods, another guy's running 3 Salukis, another guy's running 3 halves, and you all go out there, and each one of you run 3 rabbits apiece. Each one of you kill 3 rabbits apiece. Whose is the best?
Exactly. And another thing too is, I think people get really robotic about the animals. You know, a super athlete's going to have a good
rabbit
day.
hunter calling me right now. Mike McLaughlin.
I want to talk to him too. I hope to get a hold of him. I was hoping he'd be here so I could shake his hand, but I guess.
Mike McLaughlin, I met Mike McLaughlin I don't know how many years ago. I showed Ricky Hickey a male dog here. There's out of Bigfoot and a hot blood jip. And I kept his brother and 2 brothers. I had 3 males and Ricky won 1. He bought a male and a female. And Mike McLaughlin went down, and I didn't know Mike McLaughlin then. He went down, and he liked that dog. He's kind of a hairy dog. He had a little hair on him. I couldn't be up out there and had a little hair around his old nose and all. Mike fell in love with him and bought him off of Ricky. Mike ran him for a long time. He crippled him after he'd been running him several years. He sent him to his brother up in Alaska. So Mike, when he bought that dog, and then he heard about me, well, he and I've been friends ever since. He's come down and bought dogs off of me since.
He drives from Wyoming to run here, and that tells you about Lubbock's running.
He is here right now.
Yeah.
He's here right now.
Man.
He told me, he said, Dean Bohannon said, you're in the rabbit capital of the world.
It is. No, it really is. Every time we're driving for hours on the prairie, I'm like, I really wish I was running in Lubbock where I could just walk down.
Move over here.
My wife's got a good job, though. That's the problem.
Stay there.
I want to just have a sugar mama. Yeah. You know, it's
Mike's here now. Mike and Dan Conkle. They're both from Sheridan, Wyoming. They always come up here every year to run rabbits for me. I take a week's vacation so I can go run with them. I went and ran with them yesterday. They went hunting day before yesterday, Tuesday, with Ricky Hickey, and then Wednesday we ran. We're skipping today, and we'll go tomorrow and Saturday.
Yeah, so what do you think is let's say that no one gets injured. You just have like a normal day of running. What do you think is a good rest period for a dog after, say he runs, 2 good rabbits? What do you think? How long do you think?
If you can have 2 good races, put them up.
Yeah, totally.
Put them up.
Yeah.
I know guys that'll run them dogs and they'll just keep running. They can't stand to leave that field. If you have 2 good races, they kill 2 good rabbits, put them dogs in the
That is one of the best things about knowing Justin Heiss that has taught me, is that we'd run 2 good rabbits, and he'd be like, we're done. And the dogs were fine.
Justin, I don't know, he's David's son, and I don't know how I know David's been around forever and ever and ever. The Grand Canyon was a creek when he started rabbit hunting. He's been around forever, and I don't know how David runs. I'm never going to run with him, but Justin hadn't been running that many years.
No, he hasn't. And that's surprised me. I thought he'd been running since he was a kid.
He came over here and he asked me, he said, can you get me 2 of them George Harlan hot blood jips?
He got his dog starting just like I did from you, too. He had some from his dad, too.
I told him, I said, yeah, I'll get you a pair. So I don't know how far it is from here to Las Cruces, but he and his wife drove over here and
6
stayed
hours
all night and got the dogs the next morning. I never had met him, but he seemed like a fine man.
He's great. Yeah, I love running with Justin. He's taught him, you, David, Mike, everyone has given me so much. I feel like I'm 10 years older than I am in this sport, just because those guys, all of you guys, have given me so much knowledge.
I tell you what it all boils down to, Seth. Breed heart to heart.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you.
Majority, you'll get heart. If you breed heart to crap, you may get heart, you may get crap.
A lot of people I know, they are very interested in the dog's genealogy. They want to know what its mix is. So is it 50% hot blood, 50% Saluki, and then if you breed that to another known genetics dog. But I've listened to and talked to a lot of houndsmen too, especially in the lion and bear running community, and they're all about heart to heart, best to best, always. To best. And that's how I feel.
Let me share something with you. There's an old horse called Easy Jet. He was an outstanding horse. They stood him as stud. He produced a lot.
Racehorse?
There's some of his brothers, they thought, they're breeding. They never got any production. Never got anything to run out of. Well, I've got some brothers that can do things I can't do. See what I'm saying?
True.
I've got several brothers that do things that there's no way in the world I can do.
Yeah, look at the difference between you and mine.
If you were wanting to produce well, let me just back up. Here, Here's what.
You weren't sure where to go with that.
Here's what I heard a guy say here a while back. He said, said Mike Tyson's kids are more likely to be boxers than his brother's kids.
Yeah. Well, let's say
How true is that?
Shaquille O'Neal's kids are more likely to slam dunk.
Yeah, be more likely to slam dunk. So, if I've had horses all my life. My dad kept us horses all, and I love horses. I've got a horse out here right now. I buy a lot of horses. I ride a lot of horses. Not near as much as I used to, but I don't want to feed a sorry horse, and I don't want to feed a sorry dog. I'm not going to do it. Costs a lot of money to buy one of them sacks of feed. Get that sack right there that's sitting right behind you, laying down over there. I bought 2 tons of those, and that's my last one right there to feed out of those 2 tons.
Now, how many bags of feed how long does it take you to go with this pack out here through a 50-pound sack?
I fill them up in automatic feeders. My dogs are on automatic feeders, but it's a good quality feed.
Definitely. They look great.
And
super soft fur.
I supplement them with meat.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to run dogs that don't have meat in them.
Okay, so why? Why meat?
I tell you what, it just makes them stronger. The
protein, the fat? What do you...
Yeah, I tell you what Kurt Hardin said. Kurt Hardin's probably as good a greyhound man in the racing business, his family. His daddy was in the hall, his granddad's in the Hall of Fame, and they produce some of the runningest dogs in the world. And Kurt Hardin told me that if he gets to where he can't find meat to feed his running dogs, he's out of the business.
Yeah, I've heard people that just throw deer carcasses over the fence for a big pack of coyote dogs, and they'll just tear it up. Lion hunters that'll feed the dogs the lions they kill.
I know a guy down there, he's dead now, Wichita Falls. He's wealthy. He had more money than Joe. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm just going to get it out of your way so you can stretch your leg out. We got a good volume.
Wealthier than Joe Gump. He never had to worry about dog feed. He had a grandmother that back in the 60s, you could buy a new GMC pickup. Did I mess it up?
No, you're good. Keep going.
You could buy a new GMC pickup for $1,800. He'd just tear one of them up, coyote hunting.
Yes.
And he'd throw it in the boneyard, and his grandmother buy him another one.
Rabbit hunting's expensive. Coyote hunting's way worse.
That's why I quit coyote hunting. It takes a whole lot better dog to catch a jackrabbit than it does a coyote.
So, yeah, I was going to say, I always pictured you as a rabbit man, but I've never asked you officially what do you like to run more. But
I like them both, but I just don't care anything about coyote hunting anymore. Yeah. I don't care. I went coyote hunting with some guys here a while back, and I come home, my wife said, "Do you enjoy it?" And I said, "No, I really didn't." I said they was using their pickup to get to the coyotes to their dogs.
I hate that. If I wanted to chase something in a truck and turn out on it, I'd throw my bird dog on the ground.
Seriously, I watched them go across the fields to their coyotes and make them break stride, and then drop the box out right on top of them.
Yeah, that's my thing.
And they was having 15 to 20 second races to get to the coyote.
I see that a lot.
I used to. I would turn out on them coyotes. I'm for the race.
Same.
So
100%.
The thing about it is, that's why I like rabbit hunting. Takes a much better dog. You got to keep them finer tuned.
Totally agree.
Got to keep them hitting on all 8 cylinders.
Totally agree.
To run rabbits this time of year.
Houndman I really respect says 1 in 100 coyotes is a real runner, but 1 in 100 jackrabbits you're going to catch under a minute. And I was like, I totally agree. They are just so hard to catch. And if I wanted to just kill rabbits, I'd shoot them. But I want to see a race.
Yeah. One of the things is, a lot of people, I've had guys and my father-in-law, man, he died here about 4 years ago. His name was Bill Jones. And he's had so many dogs. He raised a lot of good dogs. But he told me, we'd have that old drought, and that old ground would be hard, and all, and them jackrabbits was hard to catch.
So hard.
Years and years ago, he said, if we have a rain, next time we go hunting, you think you got a new set of dogs.
I hear that in my head every single time it rains. And the next day, I take those dogs out as best as I can. It doesn't rain often in the winter in my neck of the woods, but if it rains and that ground is wet, we go out there. And
this year in our country has been the best year I've seen in a long time for the ground.
Same. Ours has been horrible. Our summer was just so brutal, and the rabbit population plummeted, and our rain didn't come until too late. and the ground was only soft one time. Me and Justin went running 3 weeks ago now, and we did great, and the ground was perfect. And I mean, those are the days that you'll always remember. I mean, it was so fun.
If you have good dogs, a jackrabbit can't outrun good dogs.
We've only
I just at that twisting and turning.
Yeah.
But this doesn't make me right. I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm not an authority.
It's all right. Everyone.
But I'm telling you, when that rabbit is laying in that bed right there, I really believe that rabbit already knows what route he's going to take.
I completely agree.
And if you don't have dogs that can keep him running his route, he's going to beat you.
I've seen as soon as you turn the rabbit, the race just changes. The energy of the race changes.
Messes your mind up.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
That's why I like a good speed dog to get in there and really screw up his plan. And Justin Heiss, his favorite strategy is to combine speed dogs with Salukis. And I think that combo is so deadly in our neck of the
Well,
woods.
speed dog with Salukis, I'm not saying he's wrong.
Sure.
But here again, I watched a lot of those movies, them having them races over there, and it looks like to me, you know, they're having 4 and 5 minute races, and I've seen some of them videos, and it didn't look like to me that the dogs were trying to kill the rabbit.
The
It looked like to me
Saluki style
they just
is
coursing them.
so different. It's true because it's funny. We had a 3-minute race, and at the end of that race, even Justin's scent hound, he's got a scent hound that runs around, looks for rabbits for us. Even she was in the race. That's how slow the rabbit dogs were because they were so tired. And it made me laugh because I thought of you because you were like a collie can catch a rabbit if the good speed dogs can work him down for it. And I was laughing because I love the Salukis because after the 2.5 minute mark, they do start like trying. You'll see them kind of like pull up ahead. I say trying.
That's why I like a little bit of stag in my dogs. And this doesn't make me right. Like again, I'm not an authority, but it seemed like to me that if you keep it a little staggy, it seemed like it gives them more desire to put their mouth on that rabbit.
Yeah, I agree. I think a blend. Speaking only from a strict biologic standpoint, I think a blend of genetics seems to be ideal. But
yeah, I tell you what, if you breed heart to heart, I like to look at the feet. I'm not gonna have a dog that sits down on that back end.
Totally.
I watch them toes. I want them to stand up kind of like a dingo.
Is that called cat feet?
Yeah.
Is that what people call that?
Coon feet.
Coon feet. I like that better.
I like them to stand up on them toes. I look at their feet before I breed them. I want to know that they've got mouths on them.
Totally.
They don't have.
I know a lot of people that want to breed to that number, that pedigree. To me, and again, this is my limited 5 years, or 3 years on rabbit dogs, and 2 years of coursing a mutt.
Well, I'm going to share with you about your dogs and my dogs.
Let's hear it.
Dale Hall has used my dog several times. I'd loan him a dog to go breed to.
Yeah.
I let him have a dog and a Jeb Twister. She's well known.
Oh yeah, it's my dog's mom.
And anyway, I let him take Twister and raise some pups. He wanted to breed that. Something happened to that sense dog, which would be an uncle to your dog, half uncle. Something happened to him. He died, but anyway, he raised some pups out of old Twister, and he said, dang, Dean, these are some of the run this on bucks I
He
ever
loves
run.
Twister.
And I sold him a dog named Diesel, and he sold that dog. He was a rabbit dog. He was one of them half. He was one of them half Bigfoot and had a hot blood Jeb. And anyway, Dale asked me if I knew anyone that had a really running dog that they might sell. And Raymond Rodriguez, a friend of mine that we hunt together all the time, he had a dog over here, a male dog, that could run. He could run, had a lot of speed, could stay out there. He was a mile and a quarter dog, but he could run. Didn't have that great a mouth on him. But I told Dale, I said, this dog can run. He said, would he sell him? I said, yeah, I think he said him. He said, what do you want for him? I said, I don't know, we'll go over and ask him. And I said, you'll get some running dogs. I said, there will be some running dogs out of him, a Twister. And so he went over and bought that dog, and he got some pups out of him. I would have never bred that away. Now, here's the point I'm making. You think you got this figured out, you go breed to a big high-powered hot blood dog and, and all this. I would have probably never bred that away. He bred that away, and he gave me a pair of Jips. I brought them over here. That's them two right out there.
And you like him a lot.
And I'm telling you what, when they was 9 months old, they were knocking a rabbit down. I mean, they was knocking them down. And they was pretty good, but they've developed a whole lot better mouth then, but they caught a lot of rabbits when they was 9 months old.
Can you train mouth into a dog? I think you can.
You gotta, no, I don't. Well, let me share, I do. Let me back up again. But anyway, let me tell you about these dogs. And I'd have never bred that away. So I said, golly, bum, these Jips. I said, we're going to go run by them dogs off of them. So I went, and he wanted a little bigger dogs for coyote dogs. So I got your two. And these two out here and two more.
Got it. So the siblings he kept were a lot bigger than Pronto and Calypso and all them.
Huh?
The siblings that Dale kept were a lot bigger than the
he
ones
didn't keep any of them. I got them all.
Oh, I thought he kept some.
No.
Oh, okay.
He still has some out of Twister, but another dog.
Oh, that's right. He told me he had some half brothers. Yeah.
So, but
They're
anyway,
big too.
Golly, when I saw these two Jips run, out of my Jip and Raymond's dog, I told him about it. I said, man, I got to get the rest of them dogs. I want dog right. And you got two of them. And
to say I like those two is an understatement. I'm sitting here because of how much I like those dogs. They run so good.
What else you asked me that I was telling you about this story?
Oh, can you train mouth into them?
Yes, I tell you what I do. You see my big pens out here? They're big pens, aren't they?
I think I know where this is going.
When I have litters of pups, that's where they go, right out there.
Yeah.
And I keep a toy over for them.
Yes.
Sometimes an old rope that's got knots on both ends, whatever it might be. And now this is just my thought. This don't make me right. But those pups get to contesting, having contests. You know, one of them will grab something, go to running, and the other one will go chasing. That little pup that's got it is twisting and turning and trying.
That's how I picked mine. You threw a sock down there for him.
And so I think that makes them learn how to be able to twist and turn and get back on
totally.
rabbit.
I mean, why not? You know, as far as mouth goes, a dog that can you teach a dog if it's hesitant to bite a rabbit? Can you teach it to get in there and get more active? I think you can. I think it takes time, and I only have a few dogs, so it helps me do that. But I think if you throw an experienced dog with that little dog and you put it in a pen, like a big pen like that, and you throw a rabbit in there with it, that pup will get more active in chasing that. I think we got a bird running on the roof.
Yeah, those little birds get up there and walk on it.
Yeah, I think you can get a pup excited about going after that rabbit with that older dog, and I think I don't know, you could probably give it more confidence.
Well, when my puppies get to where they're getting close to the age to start training them, I'll put those puppies with one of my older dogs and let them just run with that older dog. And then when you jump a rabbit with that older dog, they think you're supposed to be with it. Yeah.
My dogs were good, but when I started running with Justin's dogs, I could see them transform within months. And I mean, they learn so much skill, not a physical ability, skill. And they learn how to work as a team with those dogs, because Justin's dogs, especially his old Saluki Mouse, he's a veteran. I mean, he's 6 years old, still hunting. And I
don't know. This is just, like I say, this is my thought again. But I like to put my pups with some dogs that can keep that rabbit beat down in front of me. I think if you put them with some of them long running dogs that don't start working a rabbit till way out there and all, I think it disheartens them.
Justin had two McLaughlin high-powered half-bloods that were super fast in the first 2 minutes, and my dogs ran with them. The Salukis were tail dragging a little bit for the first half, but then they come in and do their thing. I'm not even going to discount those Salukis. Justin's Salukis are incredible, and they caught a lot of rabbits for us because they can cut those corners so perfectly. And I mean, it looks like you tie a string from their nose to that rabbit's butt sometimes, especially in those long-winded races where that rabbit gets down into a creek or it gets down into a real tall grass draw. Justin's big dog at full speed will start jumping. It looks like a dolphin jumping through the tall grass, and he'll keep that rabbit in front of him somehow. He has saved more races doing that.
Those
pretty
dogs,
amazing.
they get smarter the more years the smarter they get.
You know, the rabbit I called you jumping around, that rabbit ran into that bush, and then it turned around a full 180 and come out the back. And that Jip, who's not as experienced as my dog, just blew past that bush. And my dog was already slamming on the brakes, and he knew. And that rabbit jumped out, and came right back out that mesquite bush, and he was already turning around and got right on that rabbit and killed him in 20 seconds, right after him. Just ran up and plucked him right beside him, and I was elated is an understatement.
I'm not. you've asked me to do this interview, but I'm not trying to tell anybody that I'm right, that I have the right answers.
I just want to hear what you have to say.
That's my thought.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. I mean,
they may not work for someone else somewhere else.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, A, I respect you a bunch. B, I love talking to you, and I think you got a lot of knowledge, and I just wanted to hear what you have to say. I mean, I have a whole list of questions, but we can go, whatever we want. But I did want to ask you one question. I'm going to ask everybody this. Tell me about your favorite race. There's got to be one that's stuck in your mind, and what happened. And did the quarry escape, or did you catch it?
Well, I don't know. I've had a lot of them.
What's one that makes you just jump for joy?
The one that I think about a lot is that Joe Edward dog I was telling you about in that Nova. They had mouths on them. That Nova Jip was she was 7/8 Saluki.
Oh yeah.
No.
Who bred her?
No, 5/8. 5/8.
That's what I'm trying to get to. That percentage roughly.
I got her from Doc Blevin's. Bill Haney from Electra, Texas, raised a litter of pups, and he named them all after cars: Chevy, Nova, Cadillac, all that, And Doc was up here one time running, and boy, I fell in love with that Nova Jip because she could run up, even though she had so much. She looked like a full-blood Saluki, but this Jip was she was kind of like that full-blood Saluki that Mike McLaughlin had.
Jewel?
They had mouths, Jewel.
Yeah.
They had mouths on them. I mean, when they got to that rabbit, they didn't want to course him, they wanted to kill him.
I love it.
And so
That's how
I
Justin's
wanted
are.
her, but there was no way. And we was out here southeast of town one day, and that Nova Jip jerked this toenail on that right front outside toenail off, and Doc thought she was running. He said, well, I run her, and I said, well, I'll buy her off of you. And he sold her to me. Boy, I raised some good pups with her.
Jewel, Justin's Jip Nadia is a spitting image of Jewel. Nadia has a vacuum cleaner for a mouth.
Yeah.
And when a rabbit is in front of her, it is dead.
I'll tell you something about Mike. The first time he came here and he had Jewel as a pup, she was 8 or 9 months old. We have time?
Oh, we can go as long as we want. It's 49 minutes.
She was 8 or 9 years old. 8 or 9 months old. And we were up here by Idaloo, and he had another little female about the same age, and she wasn't a litter mate to Jewel. Forget where he just gave her away because she wasn't worth anything. And but he dropped them two out to dump out, just to dump out. And I always jumped up, the rabbit didn't come up right there where we dropped them out at. And that Jewel dog took that rabbit, went out there by herself. She killed that rabbit.
It's such a hard thing to do too by yourself.
Dang. She wasn't but 8 or 9 months old. She was a pup.
Dang.
I said, boy, Mike, you got you something there. He said, oh, that's probably a weak rabbit, I don't think. And then, I'm telling you what, I've seen her do some things that unbelievable. I've seen her kill rabbits in 100 yards, and I've seen her kill them at 2 miles,
Yeah, that's how Nadia is.
And I told Mike McLaughlin, I said, you got the best Saluki Jip I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a trainload of them.
Well, that's what So the favorite race was Joe Edwards and Nova.
Yeah, they'd run a rabbit over here. We was out here south of town. And they had to run a rabbit. I mean, I don't know how far, but it was a long, hard race. And that rabbit stepped out there on the farm to market road and was going right down the stripes.
Pavement.
And they killed that rabbit right in the middle of that road.
Dang. That's awesome.
And that sticks out in my mind more than anything.
How long have you been running? How many years?
Well, I'll be 70 on my birthday, and I started running when I was 10, 11 years old.
How many years ago was that race?
Oh, let me see. It would be, I can tell you about exactly when it was. My wife and I have been married 25 years. So it was probably 23 years ago.
And you're still grinning like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
You're telling me that story like
I've told a lot of people that story, and there's a lot of witnesses there that saw it. That rabbit stepped out on Farm and Market Road and went south on that Farm and Market Road. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
2901, I believe, 2902. And I said, well, I'm beat now. And it was right down the middle of that road, and I was scared to death, afraid the car would meet them.
Oh, yeah.
And everything. They killed that rabbit going right down the middle of that road.
You see the fur coming up on the pavement?
Yeah.
I love it. I love a good race.
But 3 of as good a dogs I ever had, too, was out of that Joe Edward dog that had run with her. They killed that rabbit going down that road. They bred her to a black and white spotted marathon Jip that's supposed to be an outstanding Jip. And I got 3 of those pups. I named one of them Joe, and one of them Edward, and one Junior. So I named them that because their daddy's name was Joe Edward, so I had Joe Edward Jr.
I love the names. They're always so good.
I'm telling you what, when guys come watch, they'd come go hunting with me and all, and you never heard such hooping and hollering.
Oh, I have.
Reverend. Oh, man, great guy. There's 3 preachers used to come down here from down the country. Finley, Montgomery, Brother Montgomery, Brother Finley. Man, I can't think of the other one. Anyway, and they'd go hunting with me. They'd come down here, we'd go hunting. You never heard such screaming and hollering in your life. Well, I mean...
I run with Justin, so maybe. I run with Justin, so maybe we get loud.
Doc Blevins had a daughter that lived here. And when Doc got to where he couldn't run no more, he'd come up here and stay with his daughter in the wintertime. I'd go over and get him and take him rabbit hunting with me. He told me, he said, that Joe dog right there, he said, Dean said, I've run rabbits all my life. I said, that's the best dog I ever seen in my life.
Is that your best dog you've ever had, you think? What's the best dog you ever had, and why do you think so?
Well, they're different dogs.
Mine's, of course, my male. Joe Edwards
Sr.
Sr.
have better dogs than I got now.
Yeah. The culmination.
Like I say, I've had dogs as good, but I've never had as many on my place.
Yeah.
I've had dogs as good. You know, them 3 dogs were Joe, Edward, and Junior. Their daddy, Joe and Nova. I remember one year, Bigfoot. I didn't run Bigfoot. I just had him here to breed. Mm-hmm. But I remember that one year with old. I mean, a lot of folks are going to think this is a lie, but I mean, there are people that know me and will hunt with me that'll tell you. I ran 54 rabbits and killed 51 or 52 of them that year. If they didn't go in a hole or something, they died.
That's how, I mean, right now, we've only been outrun in 29 rabbits. We've only been truly outrun one time. And that would be my story of what's the craziest race that you lost?
Raymond Rodriguez had run with me, known me for 40 years. He told me percentage-wise, he said, Dean, percentage-wise, I said, you've had some great dogs over the years. But percentage-wise, I think you got the best dogs I ever seen. I run 3 sets of dogs, 3. I've run 20 rabbits and I've killed 20 rabbits this year.
Can't argue with results.
Mike McLaughlin was with me yesterday. I run 4 and killed 4. The week before, I run 4 and killed 4.
So realistically, what's a good catch percentage for a good pack?
Oh, I think if you kill 85%, it'd be great.
That's an excellent pack. Because I've heard 50-50 is good. Not great, good.
I don't want 50-50. I don't want to feed them.
Yeah. Right now, we're rocking out. You know what I mean? I guess that truly does depend on your terrain, too. Because if you're running in terrible terrain, 50-50 could be excellent.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, if you're running like Mike and Dan Conkle.
It's really contextual.
Up there in Wyoming. I've never been to Wyoming till year before last. And, man, I went up to Wyoming to see some of that stuff they run in.
Yeah.
I told Mike, I said, I'd never own a greyhound and run rabbits up there.
I think you'd feel the same way about some of the places we are forced to hunt.
I'm sure.
Knee grass
but
is
old
high.
Mike and them, they run, I mean, you know, they can't run a rabbit any time at all until it's over a hill. They got to run the top of that hill and see him. He's down the valley, then he's out the side again over another hill. All their dogs pack. They've got a good bunch of packing dogs. And Raymond and I bred a gyp to that Mikey dog, and that's these 3 gyps you saw out here that's 20 months old.
They're looking good.
Oh, they bring a rabbit out.
Look good.
And, man, they run across creeks. Some of the roughest country I've ever seen in my life. New Mexico. I've been all over New Mexico.
Not as bad.
Well, there's one place. I went up to Santa Fe one time and I rode that train. You know, they got a train that goes kind of through the mountain and all. I never seen so many jackrabbits. I didn't know there's jackrabbits in the mountains.
There are places that have so many jackrabbits, but it's just unrunnable because they prefer shrubland, right? So, and there's a lot of shrubs. We actually have to drive quite a ways to find good remaining intact desert prairie that we run on.
I couldn't believe all the rabbits I saw on that train trip, just in the mountains.
We do rabbit surveys quarterly, and there are some places that you'll see 70 rabbits in a square mile.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's all unrunnable. But so yeah,
we had good luck finding rabbits yesterday.
So is Lubbock your favorite place to run?
That's the only place I do.
It's hard to say no.
Now, I tell you where I really, really, really love to run. I really love to run them old alfalfa patches over in Oklahoma.
Those big center pivots?
Yeah, I love to run those alfalfa.
I'd like to travel around. I'm coming here next. That's where I want to run next. So I think me and
But
you...
Lubbock, Mike McLaughlin said he believed the best rabbit dogs in the world come out of the Lubbock, this part of the world. Because we have a lot of rabbits.
Yeah.
Like his, they came down here Monday. Mike had found 5 rabbits. He's killed 5 rabbits. And Danny just killed 2. They can't find any rabbits up there this year. They're gone.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm facing right now. It's really bad. It's
I'm going to tell you a little story and then we'll quit.
Okay, sounds good.
Doc Blevins has owned more greyhounds than any man walking.
Racetrack dogs.
No.
Oh, hunting dogs.
Well, racetrack dogs too, because he used to go out to Arizona and everywhere back years ago. When I was a little kid, I remember him coming through and stopping with my brothers and them, talking to them, and he'd have a big trailer full of hot blood dogs he'd been out to Arizona to get. Or over at racetrack in New Mexico, wherever, you know. And anyway, I was at the police department in Vernon, Texas. And I didn't make a lot of money, but I was riding a lot of outside horses. And I had my horses was out way off out there, and they're just wheat fields after wheat fields after wheat fields after wheat fields with no fences around. Just right west of my horse, from between Vernon and Lockett. Doc Blevins would take him hot blood dogs. He went to Bowie Trade Day. Back years ago, Bowie Trade Day was one of the biggest dog trade days in the world. And he would just take a greyhound from anybody. And I walked up to him one day, and there was a little mousy-colored ring-neck gyp, young gyp, and a pen over there with a bunch of other dogs in it. What's that gyp right there? He said, she's a Bowie's Trade Days dog. I said, what will you take for her? He said $7.50.
What?
No joke. I gave him $7.50. I bought that little kid. I took her and warmed her and cleaned her out good, and I went to feeding her great. And she would follow me. I'd ride a colt across the country, a horse across the country, and she'd follow me. She got to where she jumped jackrabbits. You might make a good showing, missing one. I kept feeding her and exercising her. And that gyp got to where she's killing jackrabbits by herself. She was a little dog, might have weighed 40 pounds, 45 pounds at the most. Little gyp, pretty thing. Had the finest little greyhound head on her.
That's how my gyp is.
And Doc Blevins had a black gyp. He called her Rosebud. And every time you'd see him, you know, and we'd go hunting, and she was a good gyp, he'd say, "Oh, Rosebud is open to the world." That's what he'd say. He said, you know, you never heard him talk, but he kind of high-pitched and squalls a little bit when he talks, and says, she's open to the world, you know. And so after I had this gyp several months, and I see her catching them rabbits by herself, she caught a lot of rabbits by herself. I'd be going across her horseback and rabbit come over. But I was getting her fit, see, and feeding her good, and taking good care of her, worming her and all that. I caught him one day and I said, "Oh, Rosebud's still open to the world." I think that's her name. She's a black gyp. He said, "Yeah, what do you got going to outrun her, Dean?" I said, "That's $7.50 dog I bought off of you." And he said, "Well, let me call Albert Hickey. Albert Hickey and him ran dogs together all the time. He said, "Meet me here at the house and we'll go over to Oakland Union." We went up North Oakland Union toward the Oklahoma border, and it was a pasture. And it was in the evening. We went up there, and I walked out there. I walked his dogs when I was a kid. He had another guy named Bud Hardage from Big Spring. When I was a kid, I'd walk their dogs. Anyway, I walked him. And we jumped the rabbit. His dog beats me to the rabbit, and they just start working it together. They just run beautiful together, you know, just woo, woo, like racing for the pole position. You know, They worked that rabbit. I mean, this race got long and hard. A little bit when Mousy Gyp just started going on out, going on out, going on out. A little bit Rosebud started trotting. And this Rosebud, I mean, this gyp I had, she come on around, and she come right by us. We'd stand at the pickup, she come right by us, and that rabbit would run so slow I could reach out and caught it. And the rabbit was squealing. And that little gyp of mine, she was about that far behind her, stayed that way for a long time. And then that rabbit was so desperate, there's a little bush there that she wanted to hide behind, and she just slowed down a little bit to hide behind. That little chip picked that rabbit up. And old Doc Blevins, every time he'd come up here, he said, I'll never forget getting outrun by a $7.56. So that means,
Awesome.
that means, you know, and I bought a pair of
all about
dogs.
the care.
I bought a pair of dogs off of a guy one time. They got to where they couldn't catch a dog, and they were about that wide. And I brought them home. I wormed them and fed them up and everything, and really waited for a while. And I'd take them out here south town. I'd stretch the road out there about 7 miles. If nothing's on there, and I'd road work them dogs. I went back to run them. They was rabbit killing machines.
Well,
So that shows you right there that care means a lot.
Oh, it's no brainer to me, but you know how it goes. Well, Dean, man, this is the first one. It went perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping it would be. So I can't even thank you enough. So I mean,
there's a lot of stories we don't have time for.
no way. I mean, we can do this again. When I come back and run in February, we'll keep just chatting and talking stories, and then we'll have some stories about how our hunt went. Dean,
See you later.
thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it. Oh my God, it's been great knowing you.